This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. Welcome back to Mountaineer Moment, West Virginia fans. My name's Troy. I'm your host here on Mountaineer Moment, covering all things West Virginia football and basketball. So excited to be in the flow of things here on Mountaineer Moment, a brand new podcast covering those things. And we're in between week 1 and week 2 right now, breaking down West Virginia's upcoming matchup with the Ohio Bobcats, which will be coming up on Saturday, September 6th, 4 o'clock Eastern on ESPNU. So a nationally televised game for the Mountaineers and Ohio. Should be a great atmosphere in Athens. I think they're expecting to potentially set the record for attendance in their stadium. I think Mountaineer fans will do a little help with that. Just a short little drive over to Athens across the border. But as you know, I think Rich Rod would say, and even in his press conference about, this, or the question that he was asked in his Tuesday press conference about this being a potential like lookover game, or because the Backyard Brawl is on the horizon, trap game, that kind of thing, and he shot those things down real quick. If anybody is focused on anybody but Ohio, then they shouldn't even be in the room, right? That's kind of what Rich Rod said. And so the Backyard Brawl is going to have to wait for now, at least another week. And so this episode, in the course of a lot of content we're releasing throughout the week leading up to Saturday, this one is just 3 keys to victory that I have for the Mountaineers in this matchup with Ohio. Again, there's been an episode on 5 things to look for in this matchup. There's been a breakdown on Ohio and a little conversation about that spread, what the Mountaineers are favored by, which was like 3.5 to open. Now it's down to 2.5. I see some places. A little conversation about that as well. Doing some over-unders, so check out that episode too. But 3 keys to victory here on episode number 12 of Mountaineer Moment, a podcast covering West Virginia football and basketball. And number 1 was simple. Number 1 was easy. Number 1 was the easiest one to get here, and that is the Mountaineers need to contain Ohio quarterback Parker Navarro. So if you look up his history, he spent some years at Ohio, wasn't the full-time starter, became the full-time starter in 2024, and all he did was lead Ohio to a MAC championship and an 11-3 overall record while rushing for 18 touchdowns and over 1,000 yards. He's a guy that can obviously get it done on the ground. Zach Alley is well aware of that as he prepares, even gets the scout team ready for what this is going to look like. And he, I said this on the last episode where we talked about Parker a little bit too. Zach has been very adamant on his Tuesday press conference about keeping him in the pocket as much as we can and limiting what he can do from outside the pocket. And here's why. He said, based on their research, he said that Navarro is a top 5 quarterback in the country when he's outside of the pocket. He is unbelievable when he is on the move. So I think we see a little bit of Zach Alley's game plan, even just on a Tuesday press conference, and that's to keep this kid in the pocket because he is very dangerous with his legs. So that's a huge key, right? If you come out here and you let this quarterback run all over you or throw all over you, like, it could be a long day. Mountaineers cannot afford, you get Ohio in 3rd and long situations. 3rd and 12, nobody's open. Parker scrambles for 13 yards, first down. He does it again. Like, those are things that just crush a team. And he's capable of doing that. And so he is the focal point of their offense. In their 34-31 loss against Rutgers in week 1 on the road at Rutgers, he accounted for all of their touchdowns. I forget if he had 2 on the ground and 2 through the air, if he had 3 through the air, but nonetheless, he had a very, very good game. Let me look up those numbers real quick. 21 for 31, 239 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air, to go along with 9 carries and 93 yards and a touchdown on the ground. So he wasn't scared of the Big Ten opponent in Rutgers, and now he's got a Big 12 opponent in the Mountaineers coming to his house. If you stop him, if you stop him, contain him like you want to, like you're going to game plan to do so, you're going to win the game. He's that important to their offense. He's that good that you can try and you might not be able to contain him. But that's number one. Key to victory is if you can contain him, there's a really good chance you can win this game. So keep an eye on that chess match between Ali and Navarro. Number 2 is the West Virginia needs to establish the run. Establish the run, right? Spot the ball. Rich Rodriguez is back in Morgantown, and we want to run the football. 5 touchdowns in week 1 on the ground, well over 300 yards on the ground, with a lot of guys even getting carries. Jaheim White leading the way, I believe, with 18 carries for him, 93 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Nico Marchiol, 13 carries, 60-something yards, and a touchdown with his legs. So you got to establish the run because, well, again, this is a team from the MAC. Again, they just won the MAC. They went 11-3. They're good. But this is Rich Rodriguez. This is how he likes to play football. And if you can, and Rich Rod, we saw it last week, not with the run game, but with the pass game. He threw 3 or 4 straight, little, 7-8 yard turnaround routes to Cam Vaughn because they wouldn't guard it. All right, they just ran the same play 3 or 4 times in a row and picked up first downs because it was working. And if you're not going to adjust, then I'm going to keep running it. And so Rich Rod has that kind of philosophy, which is smart. It's not genius because it's just should be pretty simple. If it works, do it. If it doesn't, fix it, But Rich Rod, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what he does. And if you can establish the run early, you bet in the second half, he's going to keep running the football. He's going to keep running the football. He's going to do whatever it takes to win. And the inverse of that is also true. Like if you can't run the ball against Ohio, well, one, that could potentially lead to a long season ahead if you don't get that fixed. But 2, it could be a long day. Again, I'm not saying Nico isn't capable of throwing it through the air and getting first downs and touchdowns and moving the ball down the field, but Jaheim White is, the focal point of this offense. And if you can't get him going, whether it's through him or through the offensive line struggling, I don't know if I like our chances. If you come out here and you carry the ball 35 times and averaging 3 yards a carry, right? That's not going to bode well. Let's just say that. So you need to establish the run. I think that's a key to victory. I think Rich is going to have that as a key to victory every single week, but especially here in week 2, 80-plus new players on the roster, going into enemy territory, a pumped up, amped up crowd, first road game of the season, just across the border. Obviously the closest road game that West Virginia's going to have all season. But you need to establish the run. And if you don't, Ohio might just knock us off. And then we're heading into the Backyard Brawl. 1-1 instead of 2-0. We don't want that. So establish the run is number 2. And number 3 on our Keys to Victory episode here on Mountaineer Moment is don't beat yourself. Simple, but profoundly important. Don't beat yourself. The Mountaineers had 4 first-half fumbles. They lost 3 of them against Robert Morris last week. Fortunately, they were playing Robert Morris last week, and so they were able to go into halftime with just a 10-3 lead, but I'm just going to say, if Mountaineers were playing anybody else on their schedule, including the Ohio Bobcats, and you do that in the first half, you're not winning that game. Fortunately, they were able to win that game. But we were able to really turn it on in the second half based on whatever Rich Rod said in the halftime huddle. 45-3, right? Came out and showed it. But you can't beat yourself. We cannot come out here on the road and have 3 turnovers in the first half. You just can't do it. Because in my personal opinion, I think Ohio's good enough to take your 3 turnovers that you're handing them and go out and win the football game. So Don't beat yourself. All right, Rich Rodriguez coached teams. I mean, we preach taking care of the football, avoiding mental mistakes, right? Western Indiana, even on the offensive line, had some flags thrown, penalties, last week against Robert Morris with false starts, which again is expected in week one. But as Rich Rod said post-game, we got to take a day to clean up those mistakes, clean up those mental errors, ball security, and then we're going to, get right and focus on what's before us. But let's fix what was wrong and get right. So do not beat yourself, because beating yourself is exactly what the Mountaineers would have done last week if they were playing anybody else on their schedule. Fortunately, they weren't, and they escaped that with a 1-0 victory, ended up covering the spread, 45-3, incredible. But nonetheless, do not beat yourself. And that might be a super obvious key to a game, but it's just all rooted in what they did last week. And that would have beaten themselves. So again, 3 keys to victory. Number 1, contain Parker Navarro, Ohio's quarterback, who can get it done through the air and with his legs. Secondly, Mountaineers have to establish the run. Absolutely have to positively establish the run game. Establish Jaheim White. Let him break one loose. Watch him run. Let's get on the board early. And number 3, don't beat yourself. Avoid the mental mistakes. Avoid the costly turnovers. And let's play ball. All right, so Mountaineer moment here. WVU football and basketball here, covering 3 keys to victory for the Mountaineer football team as they get set for a Week 2 matchup with the Ohio Bobcats from Athens, Ohio. Saturday the 6th, 4 o'clock Eastern on ESPNU. If you can't make it to the game, be sure to check it out on TV. And we'll be here, obviously, with all the breakdown analysis following the game. And still some more content to come as we count down to kickoff on Saturday. We'll see you next time here on Mountaineer Moment. Let's go Mountaineers.